specifically prohibits us from any interference.
Hey there, fellow Trekkies and newcomers to the Final Frontier. Today we're taking a warped speed journey through the fascinating world of Star Trek and its occasional brushes with controversy. Over its impressive 50-year voyage, Star Trek has beamed into our hearts with its uplifting messages of hope, cooperation, and goodwill to all species. But like any daring exploration, sometimes it encountered rough nebula and had to navigate tricky situations that sparked debates and raised eyebrows. Star Trek has never shied away from tackling bold social causes, and occasionally, that boldness led to some episodes crossing lines that left networks and broadcasters reaching for the infamous banhammer. Whether it was a storyline too close to the cultural bone, or just a matter of differing tastes and standards, some episodes had to undergo major changes before they could continue their mission of inspiring generations of fans. The BBC banned these episodes because they believed the subject matter was too intense for minors, given the themes of disease, torture, madness, sadism, and other controversial content. The BBC refused to air these episodes in the 1970s and 1980s for several years. However, passionate Star Trek fans in the UK didn't let the ban dampen their enthusiasm. They organized conventions and campaigns and even wrote letters to the BBC urging them to lift the ban and air all 4 episodes. Despite the ban, some fans managed to get their hands on copies of the episodes through the new technology of rental VHS videotapes, allowing them to enjoy the episodes without waiting for the BBC's approval. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, was against the ban and emphasized that shows dealing with sensitive content must be handled responsibly. But ultimately, the ban was due to the BBC's concern about the mature themes being unsuitable for young audiences. So, join us as we delve into the intriguing tales of episodes that were banned, altered, and still can't be aired in their original form even today. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Miri. Miri aired during the first season of Star Trek: The Original Series, taking the USS Enterprise crew to a seemingly desolate planet. To their surprise, they encountered a society of children, the only survivors of a mysterious plague that wiped out all the adults. The episode explores loneliness, survival, and consequences of unchecked technology. Despite its visual, non-controversial nature, the BBC faced a dilemma regarding Miri. They struggled with the balance between Star Trek's reputation as a children's show and the darker undertones of the episode. The plight of the orphaned children and their struggle for survival was deemed too grim and somber for their target audience, leading the BBC to withholding it from airing. As fans, we know that Star Trek often addresses complex issues, but it also does so with a sense of hope and optimism. However, Miri presented a challenge as it dwelled on the harsh reality of a society's collapse and the emotional toll it took on its youngest members. The BBC decision not to show the episode on television left many British Trekkies disappointed and eager to experience this part of the Enterprise's journey. Despite the BBC's ban, the episode Miri found its way into the hands of fans through various means, like fan conventions and, later on, home video releases. Even though it faced a temporary setback, the episode continues to be a part of Star Trek lore, reminding us of the show's willingness to tackle thought-provoking and challenging themes.
Delay us no longer.
We come.
The Empath. This season 3 gem had the power to introduce winces in audiences back then, and even now, nearly 50 years later. The crew finds themselves on a doomed planet, enduring torturous experiments by its inhabitants. While the torture isn't shown on screen, the vivid depictions create a horrifying picture. The intense subject matter and unflinching portrayal led the BBC to put its foot down and ban this episode from ever airing in the UK until 1994. Talk about a long wait for British Trekkies. However, across the pond, The Empath received critical acclaim in America, leading to a legion of passionate fans petitioning the BBC to show it and other banned episodes. But the BBC stood firm, stating that these episodes dealt with unpleasant subjects like madness, torture, sadism, and disease, and they didn't see any plans to air them. So while The Empath might have taken audiences on an emotional roller coaster in America, it remained in the shadows for UK UK viewers. Isn't it fascinating how different countries can interpret and handle TV content in various ways? That makes the Star Trek universe so intriguing. It challenges our perceptions and emotions. Patterns of Force. We're beaming down to the intriguing case of the Patterns of Force episode, which got the axe of Germany and was barred from airing there for decades until 1996. Now you might wonder, what could have caused Kirk and Spock to face such a fate? Well, it turns out Star Trek wasn't always subtle with its social commentary. In the Patterns of Force, our intrepid heroes find themselves in an alien world ruled by a regime strikingly similar to Nazis. Not a favorite theme in Germany, to say the least. The uniforms, the propaganda, and the plans for genocide all hit a little too close to home for the German censors. Of course, as always, the Enterprise crew swoops in to save the day, but this particular story hit a nerve. Germany was ready to revisit that dark chapter of history in the 90s when they finally lifted the ban. Surprisingly, a show as popular, well-intended, and optimistic about the future as Star Trek faced the cancel culture in any galaxy. Remember that Star Trek has always been bold in tackling tough topics, even if it means bumping into cultural sensitivities. Plato's Stepchildren. You've undoubtedly heard of the iconic episode Plato's Stepchildren, where Kirk and Uhura share the first ever interracial kiss on television. This moment was a trailblazer for Star Trek and the American Civil Rights Movement. Surprisingly, NBC had no issue with the scene, but they worried about potential outrage from local stations in the Deep South. However, to their surprise, hardly any complaints were made. But across the pond, the BBC made a different call and elected not to air the episode due to their syndication. Their official explanation? They found it too violent, but many suspect they feared a conservative backlash. Come on, BBC, where's that bold Star Trek spirit? Plato's Stepchildren was full of action, just like many other episodes. The truth may be known only to the censors board at the time, but one thing's sure, this episode left an indelible mark on television history. The High Ground. Let's dive into a significant moment in Star Trek history. The UK's decision not to air Season 3's The High Ground from The Next Generation. Back in 1990, the political conflict known as the Troubles was still ongoing in Northern Ireland, and tensions were high. The episode's comment about unification, though fictional, hit a little too close to the bone for the BBC. With the IRA's attempted assassination of the British Prime Minister just a year prior, any show tackling the moral conundrums of terrorism was deemed inappropriate viewing. The Irish reference may have been the main reason cited, but the entire episode's cut and thrust was a more pertinent problem. The BBC decided that creative editing wouldn't solve the charged issues at hand, and they took the red pen to the whole episode, refusing to air a single minute. It's a reminder of how Star Trek's themes can sometimes collide with real-world complexities, and how even a show as beloved as The Next Generation had to navigate sensitive territories.
A few seconds is all we need.
Rejoined. Let's look at the intriguing tale of the Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode Rejoined. Now, this episode wasn't technically banned, but it faced resistance from distributors, especially in the southern United States. Why? Well, it featured a groundbreaking scene, Star Trek's first openly gay kiss. The writers of Rejoined wanted to present a complex situation involving Jadzia Dax and the wife of her former host, without making their sexuality the focal point. They aimed to hold up a mirror to society, showcasing a controversial relationship in Trill society without any fuss about their sexuality, in true Star Trek fashion. Despite widespread critical acclaim and cultural praise, certain sections of the audience were uncomfortable with the scene. As a result, some networks removed the kiss from the episode. Nevertheless, Terry Farrell, who played Dax, considers Rejoined her favorite episode and one of the most important moments in her career. Rejoined stands as a testament to Star Trek's commitment to pushing boundaries and addressing complex issues. It reminds us that while progress may come with challenges, it's vital to embrace diversity and inclusivity in all forms. to the Death. We'll talk about a truly action-packed Deep Space Nine episode from Season 4 that faced the wrath of censorship. Meet To the Death, the first Star Trek episode to be censored for violence, with a whopping 45 seconds of a fight scene removed. In this intense episode, Sisko and the crew formed an unlikely alliance with a group of Jem'Hadar to reach an Iconian gateway through hand-to-hand combat. Originally, 52 Jem'Hadar and some Starfleet personnel met their demise, but extensive editing trimmed it down to 20 casualties. The BBC, airing Deep Space Nine, in an early evening slot still asked for further reductions before agreeing to air it. On both sides of the Atlantic, viewers complained more about the awkward, choppy edits than the violence itself. To the Death takes us on an action-packed journey, but it also highlights the challenges of balancing intense scenes for television audiences. Whom gods destroy. Who would have thought that the introduction of Orion slave girls would be the center of attention for censors? Not gratuitous violence or lightning bolts. Nope, it's all about the tantalizing allure of the Orion slave girls in this Season 3 episode. Now, Kirk, Spock, and the crew endure some serious torture at the hands of their captors, and guess what? That was apparently just fine. But hold on tight, because what raised British eyebrows at the time was Marta's slightly risque dance performance. One of the Orion slave girls, oh my, oh my. The BBC considered the show for children, wasn't having it. A slave woman gyrating her hips towards a Starfleet captain, followed by a later boldly going down his tonsils? Well, that was a definite step too far for British sensibilities. The censors decided that such scenes were definitely not suitable for the delicate British viewing public.
The battle is mine. I crave only the blood of the enemy.
The Icarus Factor. You must have heard of the infamous episode of The Next Generation called The Icarus Factor, where Worf faces some serious Klingon troubles. Missing an important Klingon rite of passage, he shuts down socially, and his crewmates are determined to find out what's bothering him. In a heartfelt attempt to help, they create a holographic representation of the ritual, but the scene involves Worf being jabbed with Klingon pain sticks as he goes through a figurative valley of punishment. Now, this scene might seem tame by today's standards, but the BBC, always cautious of content in their family-friendly 6 p.m. slot, deemed it a scene of gratuitous torture or torment, and refused to air it. But fear not, fellow Trekkies, extensive editing saved the day as they filmed around the pain sticks, and the episode eventually made its way to our screens. It's a reminder of how even the most well-intentioned shows like Star Trek must navigate content concerns to fit different broadcast standards. Conspiracy. Brace yourselves for Conspiracy, an episode from The Next Generation that took a mind-bending turn into Cronenbergian venereal horror. Yeah, you heard that right. In this wild ride, Picard and Riker uncover a sinister plot by parasitic aliens hell-bent on invading the Federation. Hold on tight, because it gets intense. Lieutenant Commander Remek's head actually explodes. Kaboom! Meat and fake blood combined for an explosive effect on set that left us all gasping. But wait, there's more. The mother parasite emerges from the destroyed host body, looking like something straight out of an 80s body horror puppetry department. Absolutely spine-chilling. You won't be able to shake off this unsettling image, that's for sure. NBC couldn't handle the shock and moved it to the 10 p.m. slot, and in Canada, it carried a warning before every broadcast. But here's the real twist. The BBC decided to steer clear of the horror and refused to air it altogether. Conspiracy proves that even in the futuristic world of Star Trek, we could still experience bone-chilling thrills. Conclusion. And there you have it, fellow Trekkies. We've been taking a thrilling journey through 10 banned Star Trek episodes that pushed boundaries, sparked debates, and left a lasting impact on television history. From controversial themes to censored scenes, each episode presented unique challenges for networks and broadcasters around the world. But through it all, Star Trek remained a powerful force, fearlessly exploring complex issues and holding up a mirror to society. As we bid farewell to these banned episodes, let's remember that Star Trek's ability to tackle tough topics with hope and optimism has inspired generations of fans. It's a testament to the show's enduring legacy and the vision of its creators. adventures. So let's continue to celebrate the final frontier, boldly going where no one has gone before, and embracing the diversity and inclusivity that Star Trek represents. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.